Fantasies can be open avenues for endless possibilities, though once reality kicks in, the truth shows. Join me today as I explain the latest breaking news in the Kenny Veach M-Cave case. Hi, welcome back to the Kenny Veach M-Cave mystery case. Welcome if you're currently here. Today, as said, we do have breaking news regarding the mineshaft. The mineshaft which Kenny Veach stood near in his M-Cave hike video, and the one where hikers over time have gone to explore and look inside. And it's all to do with the mystery of the crystal skull. Over time, many people scratching their heads wondering, is it truly a crystal skull? Yes? No? Where did it come from? And who took it? And today I will provide a backstory for you in case you have no clue what the crystal skull is or what it looks like. Okay, so that's all under control. But as well today, more importantly, I want to present to you the latest update and information regarding it, because it has been found. It was retrieved by certain someone in the past, and as of this morning, they did reach out to let me know, and they do have a video on their channel too, documenting their hike and everything out there. So today, I will play to you a portion of their footage as proof to explain all this, as well as photos, comparisons before and after, and a complete timeline of all known hikers that have visited the mineshaft and gone inside and explored. And I will be sharing with you the appropriate photos which match the particular spot where the crystal skull was initially at. Okay, now regarding previous videos, if you do want to catch up on them, Dylan rounds or whatever else, I'll provide the odd link down below. Make sure to check it out after watching this video. It'll be in the pinned comment section, along with the Dylan rounds playlist of another missing person case, as well as the Kenny Veach playlist if you wish to check more videos out on my channel. Okay, so the order of how we're going to do things is I'm just going to present to you a backstory about the crystal skull mystery, where it was at when it was first documented, and then what happened with time when it disappeared, and then we can transition on to the more newer, latest updates. Okay, let's head on right now. So to begin things, here is the first individual that appeared on camera, which was Kenny Veach himself, back in 2014. Now this is tied to his M-Cave hike video, what you see on Snakebit McGee's channel, also known as Kenny Veach. As a little reference point, this photo screenshot near the mineshaft, along with his whole hike, that was not the hike where he went missing. He actually went back out there months later and then disappeared, okay, just in case you were wondering. But yeah, you can see on the right hand side, just behind Kenny Veach, is the mineshaft. And we have covered it as well in other areas to do with the damage over time to the structure, the ladders. And we have solved that as well. So we've got a decent record when it comes to focus on the mineshaft mystery, okay? There will still be questions and sub-mysteries out there, but maybe with time we can get to. First said, we focus on the crystal skull mystery today and make more sense of it, okay? So 2014, Kenny Veach at the mineshaft. Then at 2017, a few years later, Jeff Clark, a M-Cave hiker, an individual searching for the mysterious M-Cave Kenny Veach supposedly found in the past. Now, Jeff Clark wasn't really as locked on or focused with finding Kenny Veach. It was more so interest and intrigue towards the mysterious cave itself, and he went to the mine shaft simply to check it out, to see what was within, and to see if there were any secret tunnel ways which could lead on to the cave or some kind of military base. So that's what happened. Jeff Clark did go in, he was hands-on, and he did take some photos, and that's where it all originated from, the crystal skull. The very first time it was caught on camera, but it was not intentional. Jeff Clark had no clue that it was there. He didn't notice it. The only way he found out about it was because when he uploaded the video onto YouTube, a few people commented, and on Godlike Productions, GLP, telling him about, did you see that crystal skull on the side of the wall on the perch when going into the mine shaft? And with time, that intrigue grew, that focus grew, trying to figure out, is it really a crystal skull? Why is it there? Who put it there? Has it got anything to do with Kenny Veach, right? You'd think that, because if Kenny Veach has been near the mine shaft and later he's gone missing, was that crystal skull put there as some kind of clue, hint, marker? Was there a secret message attached with it? You never know, because what we need to acknowledge is this mine shaft was the last known spot of Kenny Veach's scent when the cadaver dogs went looking for him. Once they got up to this point, at the time, the scent ended, which created a lot of mystery. Did Kenny Veach carry on, or did he turn all the way back? You never know. And as well, near to the mine shaft here, loose change and Kenny's phone was found by the side on the ground there. Makes you wonder why, right? So there is a bit of intrigue, there is a backstory and a history when it comes to this mine shaft and the Kenny Veach case, right? Now, I'll just zoom on in case you didn't quite see it before. If we zoom in here, where it's circled is the supposed crystal skull. You should be able to see it. It's quite shiny. It does resemble the shape of a skull, crystallized, as if maybe you bought it from one of those spiritual stores, right? Though with time, people did contest it and say it was simply rock. It meant nothing, though the mystery grew stronger when later it was no longer there. And these slideshows will present that to you very shortly. But to maintain the correct order and focus, it was in 2018, a year after Jeff Clark's visit, a group of guys went out there hiking and decided to descend into the mine shaft themselves. Now, this group of individuals only came out public and acknowledged their presence back in 2022 or so. And that was just because of constant coverage by me on the case, because we were trying to figure out at the time what happened to the ladder, which you see down there. Later, when Scott Natal went, we noticed that there was damage to the ladder over time, okay? Back then, right, we only saw Jeff Clark's footage and photos of the shaft, and that was 2017. And then it was fast forwarded to 2021, 22, when Scott Natal went down to the area and went in. To our knowledge at the time, he was the second person to do that. So we saw a bit of a drastic change in terms of the structure of the ladder and damage sustained to it. So I covered videos about it, trying to make sense. What happened? Who caused it? Was it sabotage? Is someone out there to try and take other hikers out? With that consistent coverage and noise created, we got an answer. And it was this group of people that accidentally broke part of the ladder when they were trying to descend into the mine shaft. Okay, so we solved that mystery. They did come out public, and they even did another visit later on, you'll see. So these guys that went in 2018, they didn't report seeing any skull, okay? They weren't focused on that particularly. The reason why they came was to hike out in the name of Kenny Veach and to try and see what's within the mine shaft, okay? Then, 2021, Scott Natal going out there from what we heard of, okay? he did go in. He was hands-on. He did rummage about. But was he aware of the crystal skull at the time? No, he wasn't really looking for it. Now, as for appropriate camera angles, we weren't able to get the quite, correct shot aligned with like Jeff Clark's footage. So it wasn't as easy to see back then in 2021. And Scott Natal wasn't aware of the skull either back then. So it was unfortunate. Though in 2022, this was the catalyst, okay? January the 1st, 2022, the group of guys going back out there with a drone as well. If you wonder who this group of guys are returning back, it's the same guys here that went in 2018, okay? They came back out and went back into the mineshaft, partially and more so specifically focusing on trying to locate the crystal skull. And it was at this point, this moment, this timestamp when we realized, oh wow, that skull that was once there has gone missing. It's no longer there. And it sparked off all kinds of ideas, conspiracies, theories. As you see, this is the footage from inside when they were looking about. It was perfect timing, the perfect camera angle for it to be aligned when comparing to Jeff Clark's footage back in 2017. This is the same exact spot. You can see like the white greyish rock, small one on the left-hand side, aligned with one another, as well as the grey gravelly type texture stuff on the right-hand side, slightly off screen. And then towards the centre, where the two circles are at, of looking at the same exact spot, you notice a change. In Jeff Clark's 2017 footage, you can see the crystal skull on that perch with a few loose rocks nearby surrounding it. And yet, 2022, all that grey loose rock is no more, not present. That crystal looking purpley style skull is no more, not present. What happened to it? And it went on for quite some time trying to figure out, where has it gone? And from 2022 onwards, no one else really went to the mineshaft and specifically going in. You had the likes of Sean Horlacher in 2015 going to the mineshaft. You had Jay Silverheels as well. You had Jay Chuck, but none of them actually went into the mineshaft. So really, there wasn't really much to document. But I just wanted to credit those individuals so you're aware of the additional people that at least visited and went up to the mineshaft, okay? Though despite that long-term cliffhanger of uncertainty, we do have an answer right now. As said, earlier this morning when I woke up, I received a message on my phone from a random individual, and they shared their story behind them being the ones to have taken the crystal skull away from the mineshaft, and as well confirm it is a crystal skull. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to present to you the backstory, the text conversation between me and mainly them. I did ask them about questions, when did you go? When did it happen? Was there any messages on the skull, like how Jeff Clark was referring to? And just a few other little bits and bobs, okay? And we'll read their response back to you so you get a better understanding of like who they are and how they've been involved in the case. And then once that's been done and covered, I'll then share with you photo of the skull. I'll play to you footage as well of them being there, real time, and then do a comparison of the skull, like right now, and what it once was, okay? Here we are with the first message. They were quite direct, straight to the point, saying, hey, I have the crystal skull from Kenny Veach mine. Straight to the point. Now, the photo beneath is just simply a reference to the 2017 photo taken by Jeff Clark, okay? As well, I've censored the username or the profile picture out of respect for one's privacy. though they said they weren't mithered, but I'm just doing it out of respect. And of course, they do have a YouTube channel with the footage, so I will also provide that down below in the comments section. Feel free to check the link out after watching this video, okay? So this was the initial conversation starting off, and I did ask them a few questions. They responded and said, my friend recently showed me that there was an interest in the skull from online that neither of us knew about from beforehand. I filmed the entire trip we took up there and made into a video I just posted today, and there's a link to it. Now, this is the key thing, okay? He's saying that his friend recently showed him to do the interest of the skull online. So most likely it's probably either from GLP, the conversations there in the forum about the skull, or even my videos on YouTube, because I'm one of only few people to cover the Kenny Veach case, and arguably the only person in this world to have covered the Kenny Veach M-Cave mystery for so long and in such great depth. Over 260 videos made on the case. So eventually the right people do end up coming along, being informed about it, and they are often the ones to have the answers. And that's what we're kind of seeing right here, right now, okay? So maybe my videos and other material out there guided this individual to coming out and openly talking about it, okay? He also says, filmed the entire trip going out there, so that's good. You get it from like a different perspective, different eyes, boots on ground too, okay? The next part, he says, neither of us knew about the M Cave until early in 2020, okay? I found the skull under some dirt and debris at the bottom of the mine. We would go explore mines and abandoned buildings all the time, and I have several terabytes of footage I've never posted, which is why I haven't done anything with the footage until now. So that explains why their channel is the way it is and why the video has just been posted now. It was recorded back then, but it's just been uploaded now. Okay, I get that. Also, the same that we didn't know about the M Cave originally until early 2020. That's where I was covering the case around 2020. That's where I begun on this whole channel with the focus on mysteries. So that ties in line there. But I think the most important, interesting part here, considering where we saw the skull originally placed, which was like perched on a side of the rock wall going into the mine shaft on a bit of a ledge, okay? And they're saying that they found the skull under some dirt and debris at the bottom of the mine. How does it go from being, higher up on a perch to falling down and landing on the ground and being covered by debris at the same time? What caused that? It does make you think. Now, don't worry, I do have that under control and I can provide to you a possible explanation. But to find out, be sure to stick around for the rest of this video, okay? So this person's got a background with going about exploring places, unusual things. So it's not really out of the ordinary for these type of people to be at the mineshaft to do a Kenny Veach, because that's where they got involved with the case and started learning about it. That's why they went up that way. There was different reasons to go there. And I guess at the time, they weren't under the impression of must find Crystal Skull. They just so happened to come across it when they were simply exploring in the area. So that explains that. Now, asked a few additional questions here and there, and they did say that I've camped overnight in Jomay Canyon before, and I've been up Sheep Mountain on 3 separate occasions before, but only once going out there specifically looking for M-Cave related stuff. Okay. As well, I asked the question about, was there a message on the skull, any paper, codes or anything? And they said there wasn't any messages. It was underneath dirt and debris at the very bottom of the mine. I only found it after moving some items and digging around. Now, this is the thing. you're in the mine shaft, it's a small enclosed space, you're going to be kicking stuff about, you're going to be maybe exploring and seeing what objects and items, artifacts you can find. Scott Natal did the same thing, and that was in 2021, 2022 time. Take that date and year in mind, okay? So, yeah, searching about, you might end up coming across it, okay? Sure, it's still trying to understand how does the skull go from up here to down there, but, whilst looking about, it's probably going to stand out. If it is a crystal skull, it's definitely going to stand out, right? And you're going to notice it, you're going to pick it up and inspect, right? So, as for Jeff Clark, this might be interesting to you as well, where it goes on about saying how they've camped in Joe May Canyon before and been up Sheep Mountain 3 separate times, and one of which being specifically looking for M Cave related stuff. So that provides a bit of backstory behind traffic of people going to the area. It's okay for others out there to say, yeah, many upon many of people have been there, but we've never really known because not everyone documents themselves going to the area. Though slowly with time, here and there, more and more people are coming out and publicly talking about their experiences in the area, which is obviously very helpful and useful. Now, I did ask exactly when did you go there? When did you find a crystal skull and take it away? And they said October 25th, 2020. Now that does tie in line because it was in 2021 when Scott Natal went to the mine shaft, I believe, for the very first time and revisited in 2022. SB Vegas Adventures also went to the mine shaft in 2022 and specifically was looking about trying to find a crystal skull. And he said in 2022 he could not find it. Well, that makes sense because October 25th, 2020, this other group of people went there and took the crystal skull. So it ties in line with the timeline. It makes sense, right? So the footage I'm about to share with you is of that day in 2020 when they went out there hiking in the area and going into the mine shaft. I'm just going to show you a portion of it, the main focus point of them stumbling upon the crystal skull for the first time, and go from there. Is everyone ready? Let's watch.
And he sees that I just found this fucking thing. I'm at the bottom of the mine here, of the Veach mine. I don't know if it has an actual name, and I just found this at the base. Probably someone made that or did it with a child or something, but it's so cool that I found it here. It's really cool. Yeah, this thing. Okay.
So let me know your thoughts about that footage. As from what I saw myself, I can confirm that is the Kenny Veach M Cave mine shaft, whatever you want to call it. The same mine shaft which Kenny Veach stood near in the intro of his M Cave hike video. And it is within, Joe May Canyon. So that all checks out. On the outside, when panning around, it was good of them to do that because you can see the distance back from where they came from, or where they came up from, I should say, just like how Kenny Veach did when he had his camera facing into the distance back that way, right? And as well, in the mine shaft, when they're looking about, inside it all checks out. You see the barrel there near the side, or if you watch the full length footage, I should say, you'll see the barrel on the ground, a glass bottle with beetles in them. And when Scott Natal went in 2021, a year later, and a second year after that, those beetles were still in that glass bottle, okay? There's a few other bits of junk and a sieve and some other stuff which Scott Natal did take himself as a souvenir when he went in 2021. He was quite hands-on. He didn't even use a safety rope. He actually climbed down the ladder himself. despite the ladder being a bit wonky and, of course, damaged, right? So just wanted to give you it from my perspective, because I know some people over time who would have seen this mine shaft, I've seen comments in the past where people are saying, that's not the right one, it's a completely different one. And it's like, hold your horses, calm down. This is the mine shaft. This is the one Kenny Veach stood near, and this is the one where these people have gone inside along with others with time. Okay, so that can be confirmed. Now, what about the crystal skull itself? You saw him in there rummaging about, moving some objects, especially if you see the full length video. Checks out with the description that was given in the text message, and they just so happened to come across that crystal skull on the ground, which was covered with other debris. Okay, as said, how did it end up on the ground? Well, we'll explain that shortly, don't worry. But within the text conversation, they did provide another photo, a literal up close one of like, I guess when they got back home or wherever they came from, with the skull in their hand. I'm going to show you the photo of it as the proof, and then do a side-by-side comparison of how it looks compared to how it appeared in 2017, okay? Just to make sure it checks out as the same one, okay? So here is the photo. What we have is the crystal skull, which came from the mine shaft itself, holding it in his hand. A fair-sized one, to be honest. There were some people in the past complaining and saying how the skull, or the supposed skull, looks so small in the original photo of Jeff Claus that it's probably impossible that it is a skull. And yet, look at it here, it checks out. You can see the definition of it. You can see the sunken eye sockets. You can see the ruggedness and shape of the skull itself, the jawline, the nose, as well as the teeth. Rather enlarged teeth. So we can definitely say by this photo at least, it's most definitely a crystal skull. Now, was it handmade? Was it hand carved? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Or did it just originate from a spiritual shop, a store? If it does originate from a spiritual store somewhere in Las Vegas, it could be the Hidden Forest Reiki Healing Store, which is owned by a Veach family member. Okay? Don't worry, if you are wondering what that's all about and the possibilities there are videos on my channel extensively and deeply looking at the Enchanted Forest Healing Store, with it being owned by a Veach family member. Actually analysing footage inside of the store as well, which depicts crystal skulls and all kinds of items within the place. We did a full, deep analysis, everything you could think of with that stuff, themes and topics on my channels. I do plead with you, make sure to look back at those videos and check my playlist out, because it is really interesting and very important, as it could be the origins to this crystal skull. Okay, I've documented almost everything on the case, so make sure to catch up and to look at the past videos. Okay, so yeah, that's the photo of the crystal skull. Let's compare it side by side with from the mineshaft. Now, what you got to understand when it comes to the color and quality there, as well as the lighting, it can change with time. We've seen it with the supposed covered up M cave, where when Sean Horlacker went in 2019, the rock was very dark and grey. But when SB Vegas Adventures went to the supposed covered up M cave, it was very light coloured and a tanned colour. Kind of like what we see here, due to the lighting, image quality, the camera quality, you got to take that in mind. So the areas where it does look a bit purpley on the left hand side, on the right it's not purpley, but it is of a stained colour. So you got to take in mind the lighting and how the colours can be impacted because of it. Now, if you're referring back to the lighting conditions when inside of that mine shaft, it looked almost similar to that what we see on the left hand side, right? I mean, the things that stand out to me, of course, the sunken eyes, that's one thing that stands out, right? Although you can't see it here because it's pixelated, the lower area where it appears darker, a different patch, a different colour, kind of like what we see here, a different patch, a different colour. the ruggedness, the shape of the head itself, and even the angle. You know, the angle of the skull on the left-hand side is almost the same angle as the way the guy's holding it on the right. You get what I'm saying? So I'd say there are some fair comparisons and similarities. What I do want to say is there will probably be people that watch this or skip ahead without thinking and say two completely different things. They look completely different, you know, completely no link whatsoever. But I think one thing we need to acknowledge is this individual, they did provide hike footage on their channel of going into the place and coming across, you know, the crystal skull. So there's a bit of a backstory behind it. As well, I'll just say once again, because of the lighting conditions and the environment one is in at the time, it can differ from what's on screen right now, and the time of day, the season, etc., the rock colour. You know, you got to take that on to mind. I would say probably that the photo of the crystal skull in the guy's hand inside of the mine shaft, because of the lighting, it more accurately matches up with the skull on the left, right? The photo on the right of the skull, this photo taken and posted to me by the same person or one of the two guys that was on that hike when they went out there in October 2020. Okay, so I'd say with a certain form of confidence, the certainty that yes, crystal skull has been confirmed. It was a crystal skull and it was taken away by these people. So we've at least cleared that up, right? But the question still remains, who put it there in the first place? Will we ever get an answer? Who knows? But as time goes on and more people reach out, we get a better understanding of things, right? As said, the only other point I want to bring up is, how did the crystal skull go from being on a perch on the side of the rock wall inside of the mine shaft to ending up on the ground floor covered in debris? Well, I think I've got an explanation. Remember when I said back in 2018 you had the group of guys that went to the mine shaft and descended in? Well, when they went, they shared their story of how things played out. Let me read to you their comment and it might make more sense of things. So the group of guys here, as you see on screen, who also went again in 2022 to look, which of course wasn't there anymore. Take in mind, if you wonder whose coins they are, that was by Jay Silverheels, a fellow hiker that did it to honour Kenny Veach, okay? They left a comment at the time, 1 year ago when we were into the Kenny Veach case coverage, and they responded to my video, basically giving their tale of the story of how things went. So they said, I stumbled across your video talking about the ladder, and that's what led me to post the video. The top of the ladder was intact when we left. I have more videos attaching the rope and exiting the shaft, but it wasn't worth posting. I believe the top was broken off by somebody else peeking over the shaft whilst looking down. Lastly, we had no intention of damaging anything, but that area where the ladder broke was going any day regardless of us being there or not. I do and I don't want to go back up there and get extensive video in and outside of the shaft. Maybe one day in the near future I'll post again. So they were basically saying that part of the damage caused to the mineshaft ladder was because of them. The ladder was knackered, but when they went in, it kind of broke, and I think you'll see it in a bit of video footage in a second when I play it to you. But they were just giving their side of the story. As well, they also said that, I don't know anything about a crystal skull, nor did we see anything odd down there. We did not widen the opening, and we did not break the top part of the ladder. So we get a bit of a backstory there. And this was all to do with in 2018. It was 2020 when this other group that have just recently come out public about coming across that crystal skull, okay? So you can understand why in 2021, 22, when Scott Natal went, he didn't see the skull, nor did SB Vegas Adventures, who did rummage about. That's simply because in 2020, the group that came out public today were the ones responsible for that. But what about the people beforehand? Well, Jeff Claw wasn't aware of the crystal skull at the time in 2017. In 2018, this group called Off the Trail didn't even know about the crystal skull either, so they weren't intentionally looking for it. They were just casually going inside. So, kind of unfortunate, right? But what I do want to say is, as the potential explanation for why the crystal skull that appeared on the perch on the side of the rock wall ended up on the bottom of the ground, when in 2020 that recent group coming public found it back then, could have been because of these people off the trail. As I said, when they went down that ladder, it kind of broke off. It kind of broke a little bit because it was knackered, worn. So any debris breaking from it could have fallen and collected on the ground at the bottom. But in the process of stuff breaking and falling down the shaft, it might have bounced against the sides of the walls and it might have clipped the crystal skull that was resting on the perch on the side. And then that's what also led to the loose bits of rock on the side being knocked off too, hence what we see in 2022 where it's completely bare compared to 2017. From 2017 to 2022, something's happened in between for the crystal skull and the rock to crumble, to be knocked off, to be shook off. And because we know in 2018 that they caused a bit of damage to the ladder and maybe disturbance to the mine shaft itself, things might have fallen down, clunked and clattered against the sides, knocked off the skull landed to the bottom, and so did the rest of the debris, which then basically covered the crystal skull. So when future people went in between us, so they may have not seen it, right? But because this public group that have come out recent in 2020 were purposely searching around, looking on the ground, because you kind of saw it yourself when in the full footage where the guys are like moving and sieving things aside, putting stuff out the way, looking for it, right? That's probably what led to it. So that's what I think, right? And I'll just play to you the quick clip of the 2018 footage just to prove my theory right now.
The cave that you guys all said was hard to do and scary as hell. Let's go.
You said, dude, watch those steps on here though. Don't
I'm
rely
on the rock, dude.
Okay. Don't rely on the wood.
Trust me, I know. 3 points. This rope starts to
Yeah,
kick,
because
dude.
you're high up, that's why.
All my weight is on that fucking rope.
Yeah,
So don't.
yeah, you're good, dude. That rope ain't going nowhere.
I know, but I have to keep leaning back.
The middle one, that's what he said. Is that a beam that you can stand on down there? Can you grab that rope that you're next to? That's caught? The fucking middle ladder just fell out. Huh? Okay. The whole ladder just went away.
So all in all, where do we go from here? Because it seems like it's been, for most part of it, confirmed it being a crystal skull. Unless there's anyone in the chat that can provide a counterpoint, a valid counterpoint with additional evidence and proof to suggest and go against it for whatever reason, feel free. You can leave your thoughts, comments, reactions in the chat. Of course, before I continue any more, anyone and everyone watching right now, make sure to like the video and share it as much as possible to spread awareness of this breaking news, because it's very important so people are up to date on the case. As we've seen, when it comes to the general public, the human race, majority of them fail to keep up with the latest information, news, updates, coverage, theories with the Kenny Veach MK case. Majority of the human race look at the same regurgitated content of the big default YouTube channels, which make a half-hearted attempt at covering the case from start to finish. Once there was a hiker, went out, never seen again, the end. Why don't humans actually look at the latest updates? You get what I'm saying? This is serious. This is focused. We're not messing about, right? This is trying to make sense of the case, to keep it alive and to solve things along the way. Yet the human race aren't looking. They're not looking at the latest information. So what else are you supposed to do? You know, you just got to try and share it to people, leave comments, like the video, because I guess YouTube favorite that. Although it seems a bit far-fetched, that's what they seem to go off. So I guess If it's more public or more interaction, then it's on the front page, and then by default, people will click on it regardless, right? If most humans aren't searching for the answers or the truth in a case, they're not going to come across these videos. The only time they do come across it is when it's shoved in their face, and then they just click on it out of interest. So it'd be much appreciated if the people watching right now click the like button and share the video to whoever you know, because this is pretty important, right? So yeah, linking back, where do we go from here? You got the possibilities of who put it there. That's a question. Where did it originate from? You know, where did it come from? Was it bought from a shop? Yes, no. There's the questions there. Will we get to the answer of them? Maybe down the line. It could be long term. But as said, this is what I'm saying. When it comes to coverage, when it comes to creating noise on a case, being consistent, being frequent, it can lead to answers. It can lead to arguably the right people coming in at a later point and admitting to something, confessing, or just simply putting their hands up and saying, yeah, that was us, or yeah, this happened. No harm done, right? You could argue, so from 2020 to 2023, why 3 years later? Why did it take 3 years to just suddenly post it, right? If you were interested within the case during 2020, where it was quite high and at a peak, it was in 2021 when within a month I got over 400,000 views in a month. So obviously, because TikTok and people coming on over, there was waves and spells of interest. 2020 onwards up to 2022 was a hot period of people looking into the case. So why did those people not post about it sooner than later? I guess with them finding a skull and them not being aware of it, you know, being linked within the case, they probably thought there's no need to say anything. But they could have at least, you know, documented the hike at the time of, yeah, we've been out there, because that's what most other people have done, right? So it's just trying to understand it from that point of view. I know some people could be very skeptical. That's understandable. But once again, we've got some form of evidence, some form of proof, which other humans may discredit in some way. But at the same time, it's like, what more do you want? You get what I'm saying? And I saw one comment, I believe, from the channel, the original video by Nina, saying, oh, could Kenny Veach be buried in there? Could he be underground, collapsed on him? Nina, are you there? You need to listen, okay? It seems as if you haven't watched or, you know, actively watched my video coverage on the case. But to refresh your mind, Nina, okay, so you're up to date in here, and to refresh everybody else's minds, because this is very important, and I will provide links down below, so make sure everyone is focusing. In 2018, CCTV footage of which appears to be an individual that looks like Kenny Veach breaking in to the Veach family-run healing store called Enchanted Forest, a store which sells crystal skulls and many other items and objects. That Kenny Veach's brother, Raymond Veach, who I think is younger, ends up doing classes there and teaching people about spirituality, along with Kenny's sister, who owns the place and runs it. You get what I'm saying? 2018 CCTV footage of which appears to be Kenny Veach alive, caught on camera, breaking into the place. A Veach family run store, and maybe where the crystal skull came from. Right? It's just coincidences, okay? Now, if that's not enough for people, because people discredit that and some have debunked it in some way or another, don't worry. 2022. A phone call made by Kenny Veach's Facebook account to Kenny's sister-in-law, Susan Veach. Never responded back. And I don't know how long later, months, or in 2023, early 2023. So between November 2022 to early 2023, in between that space and time of Susan trying to call back from that missed call by Kenny Veach, the person ended up uninstalling the app, the Facebook Messenger app, where calls can be made. Bit of a coincidence there. So when people say Kenny Veach is out there in the desert, where's the proof? Arguably, there is more proof to suggest Kenny Veach is alive or was alive up to a certain point, as my videos have documented and demonstrated. But it's up to you, the viewer, to watch the videos and to interpret it yourself. But it does require people to watch the videos. And as said, unfortunately, the human race out there have failed to do so with time. At times, my disappointment is beyond immeasurable, okay? But there's only so much I can do when it comes to covering the case and trying to spread awareness. Just like how I've done with Dylan Rounds, over 320 videos on the case for a year straight, almost every single day, watching every single live video premiere and being punctual, and almost every video being 1 hour long, up to 2 hours long plus. So the stamina levels have been at an all-time high, intensified more so. But what it's also proven that just recently, when breaking news pops up, one will lock the F on, okay? When humans out there that may say, you know what, when are you covering the case? When are you returning back to Kenny Veach M Cave? One will return when there is key, very important breaking news to get into, right? There's other things on the sideline, but not to the same significance level, hence why I've been covering Dylan Rounds up to this day. But something like this is important, breaking news. So all that time and focus on Dylan Rounds, yet in a matter of a few seconds, I'm able to do a 360 and look back at Kenny Veach M Cave. I'm able to pinpoint all this material I've documented with time, all these photos, these orders, the timelines, everything so smooth and perfect. That does sound narcissistic, but I've just got to acknowledge it myself, because when looking back, sometimes you can forget what you've done or the lengths and depths, especially if you focus so much on Dylan Rounds, which I've done. When looking back at Kenny Veach, I surprise myself at times at the extensiveness and the depth and mystery behind it, okay? So if anyone has just joined right now, be sure to rewind the video back to fully understand, okay? For people joining into this case for the first time, fresh, new to it, like a recent video called RY with a green profile picture, make sure to look through my playlist to truly understand the coverage on this case, because it is much deeper than you think. It's not a typical mental health depression card idea concept where Kenny Veach did this and did that and then ended himself out there. It goes much deeper, much farther, deep-rooted, all kinds of interconnections, entanglement, all kinds of theories, ideas as well. A fair bit of proof and backup to certain stuff and ideas and comments and weird behavioural changes, everything you could think of and beyond, okay? But to truly understand it all, you need to check the playlist out, as well as other people's videos out there like Jeff Clark, like SB Vega's Adventures, Sean Horlacker, the original, okay? Many names get forgotten about in this case and community because of the, in a way, toxic general human public who are ignorant, arrogant, and brush aside all this important findings and research. And it's the underground ones, the lone individuals, the quiet channels, the small people that end up finding all this, sieving through it, making sense, and making it easier for people to follow down the line. But it needs people to follow it in the first place for movement, traction, awareness. And if you want awareness, then I guess these messages and findings need to be shared, right? Just like I'm acknowledging and, you know, sharing the footage provided by the original people of like who've come out like today, right? Link down below. Make sure to check their channel out, check their footage out. Link down below, okay? Links all over the place. Hopefully you understand that. So my conclusion is it appears to be a crystal skull that was found in there, right? And it does kind of check out color issues, but you got to think of lighting. If rocks can change color, whether it be the lighting or the time of the day, when someone's gone in this time and someone's gone years later, and the colours change. And I guess the same can happen with the skull, depending what lighting it's under, right? That can play a role. In terms of the shape, structure, and angle of it, it does check out, I would say. So yeah, I'd say crystal skull has been relocated. It's been found. It was taken away. So at least we know who has it, who's in possession of it from the looks of it, right? Hopefully they keep a hold of it and don't chuck it away, because it is arguably a possible piece of evidence. Do I think Kenny Veach put it there himself? I don't know personally. He does have the odd skull in his house, so I don't know if there's a link there. But really, if someone did put it down on purpose, they must have had an inclination that other people were going to go there and find it eventually. You get what I'm saying? The way I see it, arguably speaking, if Jeff Clark never went there or never took photos, then we probably wouldn't be where we are right now. We probably wouldn't even talk about it or know about it. So whoever put it there must have been under some impression or had a decent idea that it was going to be found eventually, right? You know what I'm saying? It is weird. It is strange. Does it hint that Kenny is in the mineshaft? I wouldn't say so, because my extensive coverage and detail on the case slants against it, that Kenny Veach is out there, arguably alive, or alive up to a certain point, and actually fled the area and in hiding under a new identity, or just simply a new life, just getting away from things, maybe, right? Just make sure to share your thoughts down below to what you think, your reactions and everything. I mean, we could go deeper with this about the before and after of the mine shaft structure to the ladder, the top brace, but I've already covered that in past videos. If you want to check that out, feel free to do so. As for the healing store, the links there between Crystal Skull and what you see in the store, I've already done coverage on that on my channel in the past. If you want to check it out, it will be there to watch. Okay, so it's arguably all under control. I still understand that there will be skepticism. I still understand some comments about the crystal skull itself, but it just feels like the only positive is something has come about, some form of confession, some kind of material, right, after all this time. That's what I would say personally, okay? Now, one person claimed to have put it there in the past, before 2017, I think it might have been 2016 or sometime in 2017, but before Jeff Clark went there, and it was by Really Robin, but the fake Really Robin account, a fake imposter account, saying that they put it there. But they've been full of BS for quite some time, okay, so I wouldn't trust them. As said, the Kenny Veach case can have a fair bit of BS at times, and people coming out with all kinds of stories which are a waste of time, but you've got to listen to some of it, right? Because if you don't and you brush it aside, you might miss out on that one piece of key evidence, lead, whatever it may be. And I'm sure most people watching right now who originate from the Dylan Rounds community will understand what I'm talking about. There can be a lot of mess, but you've got to look for it all to make sense of it and to get some kind of base ground foundations in place to know where you stand in, you know, cases like this. So yeah, that's what I've got to say for now, at least. Okay, we'll see what happens next or what case to look at, but it needed to be covered. A bit tired. I think it was probably from yesterday, all that reading, because there was a heavy amount of comments, but it had to be done regardless of how I feel. Just like the video now, it had to be done regardless. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you were able to follow it and make, you know, most sense of it. I do appreciate it if you were able to watch from start to finish, because I know the length of the videos can be long, but it's also important to understand the full picture of things, so I appreciate that. As for others that may have just watched part of it, it is best advised to watch it from start to finish, okay, to really understand. And yeah, just feel free to like the video, share it with other people, just to get that awareness going. It's like, we need a kick, you know, some kind of boost, kick right up the backside, because humans need to be alerted in such a way that they can react, they can discredit it, debunk it if necessary, or reinforce it and agree. It doesn't matter. Positive, negative resistance, any form is good as long as there is awareness, like in this scenario, right? We need catalyst. Are you a catalyst? Can you be a catalyst? I guess time will tell. Hopefully this video does reach out to people and we go from there, okay? So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye and good night.